before we get into the meat and potatoes of our webinar here today, with presentations from Chris not Chris, from JT from Corning and Tracy from RTX. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Andrew Peterson. I'm with the EPA Energy Star Industrial Team, and just a couple of announcements from the industrial team today. The first Energy Star Decarbonization Working Group of the year will hold the year's first meeting on the 23rd of May at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you are not on the invitation to that meeting and would like to be included, please, you can contact myself at andrew.peterson@epa.gov or betsy.rowe at the email on the screen to register and have that meeting be put on your calendar. And another announcement, the industrial annual meeting will be from the 23rd to the 24th of September in Nashville, Tennessee. And we do need some speakers for that event. And if folks who submitted webinar ideas or panel ideas as part of their POI application, or if you have a success story or a project that you'd like to share with your industrial energy management peers, you can contact Betsy at her email on the screen, and you can be added to the agenda for that meeting. And as always, our annual meeting will be held before AEE World, and AEE World will be held from the 25th to the 27th of September in Nashville. And Energy Star will be putting on a couple of panels at that meeting, and we do need speakers. So if you have any topic ideas for that, you can contact Betsy to let her know about your topics. Last announcement on this slide, the Energy Star Industrial Team, my colleague Kate Moody, sent out an industrial benchmarking survey that revolves around funding energy projects. And if you have any responses to submit to that survey, please do so by COB tomorrow, and the SurveyMonkey link is on the screen there. So if any data that you can provide to that survey will be most beneficial into shedding some light on how you all can fund, how all the funding mechanisms that you all go through to fund your energy projects. Our last announcement before we get into our main presentation is Energy Star, the industrial team this year has launched the Industrial Assistance Network. And as Betsy always likes to put it, we've done a lot of work with high emitting industry and large companies, and this is at the Energy Star Industrial Team's way of engaging with small and medium manufacturers. So for a lot of Energy Star partners, this can be your suppliers or any other company that you work with that doesn't have an energy program and would like to start learning the basics and network with other companies to share best practices around energy management. So we will be conducting an introductory, very basic overview of energy management training as a part of this initiative. You can register yourself if you'd like a brush up on energy management basics, or your suppliers for the IAN training to participate in that. And the first series of trainings will be kicking off on or around June 11th of 2024. So you can email the Industrial Assistance Network contact in your region. There's 10 EPA regions to sign up for this training. And there's a lot more information on the Energy Star Industrial website. So I've linked there below to the Industrial Assistance Network webpage. So now getting into the main content of our webinar today, we're joined by JT Huffnagel and Tracy Fiali. JT is the Global Energy Operations Manager at Corning Incorporated, and Tracy is the Senior Manager for Energy and Water at RTX. So JT will be taking through his presentation on lessons learned from on-site and off-site renewable energy projects. So I'm going to turn it over to JT. Take us away.
All right, thank you, Andrew. And thank you, Energy Star, for having me today. Glad to be here. So yeah, I'm going to spend a few minutes just talking about some of the lessons learned here at Corning through the handful of projects that we've done since 2015 on VPPAs and community solar projects, and just some of the key concepts that work for us. So first, quick agenda, an overview of Corning, then talk about the why, sort of why we do renewable electricity projects, the timeline of some of those projects, and then most of it will be on the critical components of what jumps out at me when I think of lessons learned. So what is Corning? We're innovators in material science with industry-leading expertise in glass and ceramic science and optical physics. We make transformational products for industries and that improves people's lives. We've been around for 170 years, headquartered in a small town in upstate New York called Corning. Over 48,000 employees. Last year we had 12.6 billion in sales and Fortune 500 company, top 300. Slide here. So today we have 5 major business segments. Our displays technology business provides high quality glass substrates for LCDs and other advanced displays that are using TVs, monitors, tablets, and mobile devices. We have an optical communications business that provides a comprehensive range of connectivity solutions for fast, reliable broadband connections that link businesses, data centers, homes, and people. We have an environmental technologies business that provides emission control products for cars and trucks and off-road vehicles that meet the strict environmental regulations. Our life sciences business has been a trusted healthcare supplier or supplier to the healthcare and pharmaceutical industry since the early 1900s, and we provide a broad portfolio of products for lab wares and cell culture products. And then finally, our specialty materials segment serves diverse industries from consumer electronics, semiconductors, and aerospace. We have products that maybe you've heard of, such as Gorilla Glass, cover glass on market share of smartphones, the laser technologies business, and biomedical imaging equipment. So why is Corning doing virtual power purchase agreements for renewable electricity? Well, it comes down to a public goal that we made. In 2021, we committed to reducing our emissions, our scope 1 and 2 combined emissions by 30% by 2028. Those goals were validated by science-based targets last year. And so, yeah, we're committed. And as you can see over on the right-hand side, about 75% of those combined scope 1 and 2 come from electricity. So, you know, our path to achieving our goal is through reducing emissions, mostly through renewable energy. We also have a scope 3 goal, but I won't be addressing that today. And additionally, that predated the science-based target goal, we made another public commitment to increase our use of renewable electricity by 400% from a 2018 baseline. We're still marching towards both of those objectives. So our timeline, we first entered into virtual power purchase agreement in 2015. We signed our first large-scale renewable energy project that we call Kenita. It's in North Carolina, about a 80 megawatt solar project. And then since then, we've done a number. We sort of went big first, and then went to some smaller projects after that. So some on-site projects in China, the Netherlands, and New York in 2019. We did a small BPPA in New York in 2020, and then we entered into the community solar market in New York in 2021. In 2022, we decided to get it back into large-scale renewable projects. Fastest way to get to reduce your emissions are larger projects, obviously. So we signed a project called Project Albion. An asterisk there, so I'm going to come back to that one later near the end of the presentation. We did some more community solar projects. We did a small project in Taiwan. And then last year, and just announced in our corporate sustainability report, we signed a third large-scale renewable energy project called Project Pato that sits in Spain, and that's going to cover 100% of Corning's European load. So we're real excited about that. So with all those projects, I have been an active or a passive participant in them all. And when I'm thinking about, lessons learned, so 3 things sort of jump out to me. The first one is communications, right? Obviously, that's I think it's pretty straightforward, but it can't be understated how important communications is. And then second, it's having the right team, having the right project team as well as the right steering team that come together, work together, and are on the same page week after week. And then third is knowing your decision criteria, knowing that ahead of time on both the project selection side as well as the contract negotiation side. And it's important to note too, these evolve over time, right? They're not static, and they should be reevaluated on a regular basis. So a little bit more on communications, and again, I'll say, I know it seems obvious, and in this sense too, I'm also talking about communications to leadership. Obviously, to do these projects, they're big, they're time consuming, they have huge impact, or can have a big impact financially. So it's important to get them, senior leadership, involved and repeat the communications. Don't assume that from the last meeting to the next meeting that there's recall about the terminology, about the why, about the language, about the maybe the investors that you make commitments to, or customers you make commitments to. It's important to I think mention that every time. It's new language. They may not know what the different scope 1 versus scope 2 versus scope 3 is. It's important to repeat that time and time again. Second, frame it up every time. The framing helps you establish your seriousness and the confidence in what's being presented. It also helps you establish and promise your audience, how are you going to spend their time, and then also establish what your ask of them is, what you need their help is, and keep the meeting on track. Because at least from my experience, meetings with senior management can get, if it's not framed up right, things can get off track very easily, and you don't get accomplished what you want to get accomplished. And then another important part of repeating is these projects can take an awful long time. From 12 to, we've had one that took 18 months to sign. So again, important to keep the communications in front of your senior leadership. Second is have an early agreement with the approvers. This may be something new to your company doing a VPPA. You may not have an approval path, right? So work with the appropriate people ahead of time to understand how you're going to get, who's going to sign off on this. Understand what triggers different approval levels. If it's a specific term length of a contract, if there's contingent liabilities that trigger something, or maximum liability, things like that should really be vetted ahead of time, so it doesn't hold up the final sign off on a project. And then we found it important to understand who the approver's trusted advisor is. So oftentimes, an approver may have, doesn't have the time to sort of get into the details, but definitely ask really, smart questions or difficult questions. And having someone on that person's team that's connected to the project, maybe through the steering team, is, can be vitally important to get ahead of some of the questions that the approver may have. And then finally, I think standardized forms has been important. Standardized ways to communicate how you're progressing through the project, standardized ways to look at the financial analysis and all the different economic scenarios, standardized ways to present the impact the project is going to have, maybe on your greenhouse gas goals or on department budgets. And then also a standardized approval form. I mentioned that it may be, new to you, and obviously when we first did it, it was new to us. And so we had a cross-functional team with representatives from Corning's energy, finance, procurement, and enterprise risk department. We came together and we streamlined an approval process that we think, and we did this after our first project, actually, so it was a lessons learned. We standardized a form that sort of streamlined the next approval process. And it's been, I think pretty successful for us. And again, something that, we go back to each time and make sure that we are updating it and it still fits the needs. The next is having the right team. And again, I think this is something that seems pretty straightforward and obvious, but is critical. As mentioned, these projects can take over a year, and the project team members need to have the bandwidth and the capabilities to dedicate to the initiative. We found it very important that the project team is not a huge team, but has representatives from our sustainability, our energy management team, or our supply chain, the energy buyers, and someone from legal, and of course someone from finance as well, since these projects are essentially like a financial hedging project or product. And then the steering team, right? Who is the project sponsor? Having that person who can clear roadblocks, who can speak to senior leadership, and and then also I'd already mentioned the trusted advisors on the steering team as well, and the importance of that, as well as having folks from the treasury, technical accounting, and of course maybe even another legal person on this on the steering team as well, especially when it comes time to the contracting phase, where the accounting group gets really interested into the specific language in a contract. And then for us at Corning too, I think it's really important. It's been extremely valuable to have a third-party advisor, renewable energy advisor, be part of the team, part of the process, and help us manage it as experts within the industry. And of course, I have the circles there indicating, of course, the project team and the steering team need to have regular updates, either to a stage gate process or milestone process, but regular communication throughout the whole cycle. And then the third component is having its decision criteria, right? On the project selection side, at least the way we do it, we use a broker, maybe send out an RFP of what we're looking for, so you get a handful of projects that come back. But knowing ahead of time what your decision criteria is to select your project. Are you looking at the NPV? Are you looking at what's your the megawatt hour price? Are you looking at timing, your commercial operation date, the term of the contract, 10, 15, 20, 25 years, what works for you? What kind of technology is important to you? doesn't matter if it's wind or solar. What kind of risk mitigation tools are you looking for? You know, what economic scenarios should you be looking at? At Corning, I think we had 7 different economic scenario analysis that our advisor helps us through. You know, does the location of the project matter? Is there correlation to the to a specific plant that you're looking for? Is that important to you and your finance team? And then on the right hand side, I have the power button icon there to indicate off, right? So have clear criteria of what will not work. You know, what are the off ramps, especially during the contract negotiation phase. You know, that you can get back and forth for weeks on a particular topic, but knowing ahead of time what your parameters are can really help speed up the process as well, instead of draining it down and spending a lot of time on something that could have been addressed early on. You know, the language around derivative accounting that is probably important. Are there price escalators? So having a firm understanding of what is in the contract language regarding that. You know, what kind of damages or security language should be in there, or dollar amounts that you and your legal team and finance team are comfortable with. So yeah, having a clear off ramp, I think, is important as well. So really, actually, I'm going to go back real quick here too, because I said I'd come back to a project in 2022 that we did sign. And we mentioned this in our sustainability report, but we did have an off ramp on a project. I mentioned that project Albion, and we signed in 2022. But in 2023, we made a decision to end our involvement with that project after, you know, over a year of essentially negotiating contract terms and or defining and signing a contract. You know, it was a large scale renewable energy project. The market conditions changed. 2023 was a really tough year in the BPPA market, with interest rates up, supply chain issues, things like that made it difficult. So we canceled that project, but yet we still maintain our you know, our commitment to our goals. And that was a tough decision, right? And I think it's also important not to get too emotionally involved, and that can be difficult sometimes. You know, you spend so much time on a project to see it go away, but you know, you have to do the right thing for your company as well. And then sort of recap, or I guess, you know, lessons learned. Reevaluate frequently. You know, each project. You know, as I mentioned, with the recent market changes and the length of time for contracting, and there could be, you know, internal functional priorities could change. So reevaluate what you're looking at on a regular basis before and after each project. The same thing with your decision criteria. You know, we found it to retest that before we go out and send an RFP. Take a look at your decision criteria and understand what is important to you today and in your long-term plan. Continue to seek feedback. You know, this is probably new. It could be new to your company. Do a lessons learned as well. Know what worked and what did not work. You know, these are very complicated projects. Things aren't going to go, you know, 100%. So just get it documented. Understand what you could do better, and ask everybody on the team for the feedback. And as I said to start off, you know, it can't be underestimated. Communicate. Over time, roles change, functional strategies change, the economic conditions change. There may be different customer demands, regulatory requirements you have to deal with. So be sure to be communicating on a regular basis. That's all I have.
Thanks so much, JT. And just a friendly reminder to everyone in the chat, everyone in attendance, if you have a question, please feel free to put it in the chat and we'll answer all questions at the end. So now, JT, if you could go to the next slide, actually, that'd be very helpful. We're going to have Tracy Fiali, the Senior Manager of Energy and Water at RTX, discuss her company's approach to renewable energy projects and what lessons she learned through that process. Tracy, off to you.
Thanks. So I'm just going to start by introducing a little bit about our climate ambition that we released probably about a year or two ago. And again, we're earlier on than probably Corning is in this pursuit of renewables. So I think this is a great we're coming at it from different perspectives here. So we have a 2025 goals around 15% reduction in greenhouse gases and 10% renewable electricity goal. And we have a 2030 goal that is they're all aligned with science-based targets, but we don't have a science-based approved target. So we're continuing to stay aligned with it. And it's a 46% reduction in our scope 1 and 2 by 2030. So we clearly understand where our greenhouse gases are. Again, electricity is a big part of them. And then we know that we have our decarbonization levers, which is, energy efficiency continues to be part of that, greening of the grid, and then renewable electricity is going to be a very big part of that, we all know. So that was kind of early on, we kind of started to understand what our journey was going to look like. So if you go to the next slide. So here's some key elements that I've kind of outlined for the decarbonization journey. Is you heard this from JT. Team. It is a team effort. There's a lot you have to do to align the top to bottom, and communication is definitely key. And you feel like you're over communicating, but I feel like we never communicated enough. That's definitely some lessons learned. Understanding clear roles and responsibilities, because it is a team. Everybody has to kind of make sure they know what their part of that is. Having a strategy is really good so everybody's rowing in the same direction. I can't emphasize education and external advisor enough. If you're new in this journey, they're very, very important to being able to execute. And then I like what JT said about some standard documentation and processes. Right now, we're more identifying internal guidance and internal processes. I don't think we've come up with anything standardized yet. So on the education piece, we definitely have used the Energy Star decarbonization assessment matrix to help us make sure we have all the right things in place. We've also utilized Clean Energy Buyers Alliance a lot. They have a great roadmap that helped us kind of put this down on paper. You can go to the next slide. So just talking about team, I think and I'm putting a little more detail here, is this is that top to bottom. There's definitely team people at the corporate level. You need the business unit in between, and then you have the sites. Because there are both on-site and off-site endeavors going on, certain things the site level team needs to be doing, certain things we need the business units to help drive, and then there's things that we're trying to do at corporate because we're trying to get scale. So this is kind of how we have our team built right now. And you can see, again, we're connecting the energy and sustainability at the top, legal supply chain, definitely key. And then again, within the business units, they have their own teams that they're going to continue to, and that's down to the site level. So I think really understanding how your team works together from the company corporate level all the way down to the site level is really, really important. Go to the next slide. So this is about the strategy. So, have a visual roadmap, what are the pieces and parts that you're going to do over time and what impact do they have? So we definitely have been communicating internally that on-site renewables is important, but it's not going to get us the scale that we need to make our large goals. But it's definitely a piece. The offsite renewables is that green lever, which is going to be the biggest impact, but that's going to require a lot of coordination to be able to get big initiatives done. So again, this is where we start to understand that hierarchy and responsibility, what the sites should be working on, what we want corporate to be working on, and then how we kind of meet in between and do those regional. So right now, the sites clearly continue to work on-site renewables and energy conservation. That's clearly in their area. We want corporate to be working on virtual PPAs and unbundled RECs. And then we meet in the middle on these utility green options and offsite direct or virtual power purchase agreements. So that's where those things are at. So you go to the next slide. And when I talk about education, again, I think everybody on your team, we just had a call earlier today where we were talking with somebody in Singapore, making sure you're all using the same language. When you say on-site project, what does that mean? What are the different ways that you can contract that? Really getting educated on what a utility green tariff is and community solar is. Again, language is important and terms are important. So you really have to have those clearly defined. Offsite, that includes both the direct and the virtual PPAs. And then of course you have your unbundled RECs, which is a whole nother lever. So I think this is where, again, language, definitions, and education definitely are important as you get on this journey. Next slide. So what we've tried to do early on, and again, lessons learned, sharing internally, all of our on-site projects, we spent some time, finding out from people, what did you learn? How can we share more? So we've developed a little bit of guidance around, here's some things you should consider when you're looking at your contracts. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? We've provided a process flow for them to consider as they're going through this, because what we're finding is everybody wants to go look at on-site projects and they're not quite sure how they should get there. So we've been trying to, again, learn from the sites that have executed, put it in some type of a guidance and share it with our other sites that are going off and pursuing the other on-sites. So this is part of our lessons learned that we're trying to share internally. Next slide. Again, cannot emphasize enough using an advisor, especially if you need to accelerate execution. They are the experts and we're still learning. So we found it very helpful to clearly identify what is the scope of work that we need them to work on with us. So we clearly identified, here are the regions we want to look at, here are the different mechanisms we want to look at, have them help evaluate and help us drive an execution plan. So we utilized them. We said, here's what we want to go look at. They were able to come back and give us the information so we could really understand what potential there was in these different areas, what we should be pursuing right now because it's currently available, what is maybe we need to monitor, what order we should be pursuing things, and then really understanding our timeline. So again, there's a lot of, we looked at both utility programs and our larger scale deregulated markets because we wanted to try to go after every lever and every opportunity that there was. Next slide. So this gets into, again, a timeline when you go to do these bigger contracts. And some lessons learned here is definitely these are very long. They're very time consuming. And there's a lot of steps involved and a lot of people involved. And part of the real thing that we've been able to instill and was very helpful for us to get executed was making sure we had a gated review process. And again, these are where decision points. This is where you go up to leadership and you go, we've down selected to here. Everybody's still in agreement. Everybody's still aligned. That was part of our lessons learned, is who all those people are. And I will tell you, a couple of times we've had to go back because we missed people along the way. This was one of our first large contracts that we just executed this year. So this has definitely been a learning year. And I think the thing is that you have to, sometimes you just have to go and execute and go through the process, and then be willing to go back and re-educate and re-engage people that you maybe missed along the way. And that's not a bad thing the first time, because I think sometimes you can't plan enough. You just have to go off and go do it and start learning, but make sure you put the decision points and gated process in place. But I think the biggest thing is that it's very time consuming, and that's good to know up front, and get your leadership to understand that as well, that this is not we're not going to get this done in 6 months type of endeavor. Next slide. So after our endeavor this year of a pretty focused engagement with an external advisor, I think we came up with some really great measured results. We were able to execute a retail PPA in Texas that's for 12 of our sites. It's a 10-year contract. Again, the time frame is definitely something new for us that we had to go through. We executed 7 new programs, utility programs, and we're monitoring 5 additional programs. And there were 6 new on-site projects either completed or contracted in 2023. So the focus and the team working on this together collaboratively, we've definitely seen an acceleration in our execution and our understanding by working better together. So we go to the next slide. So again, basically just going back and recapping lessons learned. Definitely having a strong internal team. Legal is legal needs to be there from day one. We have had somebody at our corporate level who has really been trying to be a ringleader. You definitely need to have legal from the business units engaged as well. So, but it's definitely good to start building your internal team and making sure they're getting educated. I think you just need to evaluate and look at every lever available, because sometimes right now we are not engaging in virtual PPAs. That is not something our company wants to do. So we are looking at all the other levers that we have available. Big thing is to really document that process flow and understand it. Again, can't say enough about utilizing an advisor. Incorporating that gated process where you touch base with leadership constantly and saying, here's where we are, here's what our next steps are you still in alignment? You need to do that constantly throughout the process to make sure that everybody is still in approval and they're aligned with what you're trying to do. Part of that is really understanding who those reviewers, approvers, and what that signature path is. That can definitely hold things up. And in this market where contracts need to be signed rather quickly, decisions need to be made rather quickly, and in quickly, even a month sometimes is quickly. Some people might think 24 hours is quick, but even a month can be quick in a company like ours. So you really need to get those people identified. I like what JD said, know who those people who are their trusted advisors are, and maybe get them engaged. That's a really good thing that I just learned. So, and again, I really want to emphasize getting educated with external resources. We've really looked at SEBA material a lot. They have some great information there. And then Smart Energy Decisions is another resource that we've used. So I think that's the end for me.
Thank you so much, Tracy. We're going to move on to the questions from the chat.